Who's up with us?
Okay, what is up, y'all? We are back again, and we got a pretty interesting video that was sent to us by our guy Trip. So shout out to Trip. Yes, and it's basically a cult expert talking about Jehovah's Witnesses. So let's see what they had to say.
John, look, the Jehovah's Witnesses have been around for over 100 years. So what you see with some groups that began as cults, which in my opinion, Jehovah's Witnesses began as a personality cult. They were led by Charles Taze Russell, who devised their belief system. And he was an absolute totalitarian leader. And he was the defining element and driving force of Jehovah's Witnesses. After he died, another dictator ruled over the Witnesses, and that was a man named Rutherford. But after Rutherford died, power devolved into what is called the governing body. And the governing body is like a dozen men who run Jehovah's Witnesses. And I would say that without the presence of a single personality that is an object of worship, that is the defining element of the group has changed from a personality cult led by one absolute leader to what could be seen as a destructive authoritarian organization, but not a personality cult as it once was.
So when he said that he didn't believe that the Jehovah's Witnesses were a cult anymore because they evolved and everything, immediately I was like,
right. And a lot of us may recognize him from some of the documentaries. I can't remember if it was the Vice or the Four Corners one.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing his face before in the court appearances.
Yeah, because he comes in as a cult expert. So we had to do some digging. We had to go to handy dandy Google and look up some definitions, because he kept saying personality cult, which I personally have never heard the term personality cult. Like, I always just heard normal cult or Doomsday cult.
Same. I guess that's why he's the expert, because he's saying
There's
stuff we never heard.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just going to read the definition of what a personality cult is. So a cult of personality is a system that creates an idealized image of a leader through flattery, propaganda, and other means. The goal is to make the leader seem larger than life, superhuman, and incapable of error. This can make it less likely that followers will question the leader's policies or power. And some characteristics of a cult of personality include idealized leader. The leader is portrayed as heroic, wise, and courageous. Propaganda, imagery, and words are used to create a larger-than-life image of the leader. Patriotism, the group may subscribe to common political, social, religious, or philosophical beliefs. Mass demonstrations, the group may hold mass demonstrations to show support for the leader. And distortions of the truth, the group may distort the truth to support the leader. Okay, so with that definition, I feel like I would kind of agree. Like, even though Jehovah's Witnesses hold some aspects of this, like, for example, what did it say? That they like, for the governing body, they make them kind of larger than life. Like, those are the people that you have to follow, so you don't question them. Like, they hold that characteristic, but it's not true. Really the idealized leader with one synonymous leader. It's like multiple.
I remember in the reasoning book, that was one of the things. They would come up with their own questions and then their own answers on how to how to answer. And they would say, if someone says Jehovah's Witness is a cult has a human leader. Yeah. And we would be like, yeah, so that's not us. Right. We have a group of human leaders.
Right.
But that doesn't disqualify this as a cult. And like you said, the larger than life aspect, just think about when you have the conventions versus when you have a convention and you have a governing body member there. You got people skipping their conventions or coming to a convention that ain't even for them. Yeah. Just to, oh, Brother Hurd gonna be here. Oh, we need to go and be at that. And they would get on some of the friends and tell them to go to your assigned convention. Yeah. You may be excited because this person is the closest thing to God as far as what you are taught in this religion. These people have a direct conversation with God that you can't have.
Exactly.
Larger than life.
Yes, and these are the people of this small group that are going to be making it to heaven, while the rest of us normies are down here on the earth once destruction happens. Okay, so the next definition we're going to look at is just what is a cult, period.
Now, quick side note, we did a video a while back, y'all may have seen it, may not. It was called 10 Signs of a Cult, and we broke down piece by piece everything involved inside a cult and why Jehovah's Witnesses is considered one. And we'll talk about some of the points in this one, but we'll kind of breeze through and just roll through it that way. So let's look up, what is a cult? A cult is a group of people who practice excessive devotion to a belief system, object, or figure. Some characteristics of a cult include, here's the following: unquestioning belief. Cult members follow a leader without question. Isolation. Cults may isolate members from family, friends, and society. Authoritarianism. Cults may have absolute authoritarianism without accountability. No tolerance for questions. Cults may not tolerate questions or critical inquiry. Extreme beliefs. Cult members may hold extreme and dogmatic beliefs. Secret knowledge. Cults may rely on secret knowledge that is only revealed to initiates.
Well,
We can kind of skim through some of that. So the unquestioning beliefs. Cult members have to follow somebody without question. Even, just think of the new light. When the beard thing came, the ones that gave you this information on this new beard thing checked you and told you, now what if we're thinking, I was right the whole time? How does Jehovah feel about you saying something like that?
Right.
So you, even if you've been saying something for years and the organization has been saying the opposite and you end up being right, you are not allowed to be like, so I was right.
Yes.
No, because now you're wrong for speaking out of turn and not being quiet until we gave you permission.
And you have to sustain whatever consequences may have come with that, because we've said this before, but with something as simple as the beard thing, even with that, like, there was members that literally were not allowed to have any kind of privileges or anything because they chose not to take off their beard. So they were looked at as like their spirituality was like nothing. There was husbands and wives getting into fights over freaking beards, you know, and the wives questioning the husband like, you're obviously not spiritual enough because you don't want to just cut off your beard, you know. So there was things like that was happening for all of those years, and then you're just supposed to suck it up and say, okay, I was wrong then, but it's okay now.
Yeah, I deserve to be softly shunned or fully shunned just for having a beard.
Right.
And
then
nothing.
We could go on to the isolation aspect of things. We all know how Jehovah's Witnesses are isolated from non-believing members of the family. Like, you're not supposed to just be hanging out with them all the time or anything like that.
No part of the world. That was ingrained in you. Co-workers, schoolmates, neighbors, even family, anybody who's not a Jehovah's Witness, you can't hang with them unless you are doing a Bible study or something like that. Or if they are studying the Bible, you can just barely hang with them. But not until you are a baptized, active Jehovah's Witness are you to be hanging with this person.
Exactly, which also goes into them being like members of society, you know, like you're isolated kind of from society as well, because you're not supposed to be involved in anything political. You're not supposed to have an opinion. You're supposed to be neutral all the time. You are Switzerland all the time.
No teams, like people that play on the weekends for fun, like join the sports team. You can't do that. Can't play for the school. Can't do the Boy Scouts, sing in the choir, whatever it is that normal people like to do, or clubs, book clubs, none of that. You can't do it. Yeah,
and even if you are doing it with all Jehovah's Witnesses, like Jehovah's Witnesses used to have basketball teams all over the place, you know, for people who wanted to go and play basketball. Every once in a while, though, there would be a, what were they called on the Wednesday talk? A local needs about the people getting together for these basketball things and stuff like that. So, like, it's just like you were damned if you do, damned if you don't all the time. So there's definitely some isolation from society in that case.
True story.
And even the next point with authoritarianism, you know, so that basically means the enforcement or advocacy of strict obedience to authority at the expense of personal freedom. So again, even the same example with the beard thing, you know, they took no accountability for the problems that other people had in years past. They basically were like, well, it is what it is.
Moving forward, oh well.
Yeah, and it was the same thing for the 1914 situation.
Yeah, and a lot of the blood things in the
they
the
never
1975. They don't have to.
Nope, they never took accountability. So I think, Jehovah's Witnesses do that. And then the no tolerance for questions. Cults may not tolerate questions for critical inquiry.
If you even think to ask a question, the first thing that everybody is programmed to say without even realizing they're doing it is, are you questioning the organization? Are you questioning Jehovah? Are you watching apostate? Instead of just listening to the question and trying to get to an answer, they don't think about none of that because they've been programmed that way.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the extreme beliefs, we know.
We don't
even have to go into it.
Like, man, what you mean you can't play basketball for the school?
Like what?
Why not?
You can't do cheerleading?
Yeah, why not? Well, we can't hang out. Why? We go to school together the whole day. But what? 2 hours on the weekend? That's just too tempting for the devil or something.
Yeah, too much.
Yeah, you work with somebody all day, 40 hours a week, but hanging 40 just that one extra hour. That's when the devil gonna jump in.
Oh my gosh, that's why literally Jehovah's Witnesses, when they would find a job with other Jehovah's Witnesses, it would be like the biggest blessing from Jehovah, you know? And there was companies that would only hire, for the most part, Jehovah's Witnesses, so that you all got to like work together, you know? A lot of the brothers who owned businesses and stuff, like we had that in our neighboring kingdom halls and things. And every once in a while they would hire like worldly people, but for their core company was all Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yep.
And then the last one is secret knowledge.
Don't
the
get me
light
started.
is getting brighter.
The secret knowledge, a polite way to tell everybody y'all are too stupid to understand point A to point B, so let us do it for you. And just roll with whatever we say. And even if we get it wrong, don't question it. Just take this new answer. Secret knowledge.
So the last one we wanted to just kind of put in here was like a doomsday cult, because often Jehovah's Witnesses are referred to as a doomsday cult. So let's just check out the definition for that. It says a doomsday cult is a religious movement or cult that predicts the end of the world and believes that joining the group is the only way to be saved. The term was coined by sociologist John Laughlin in 1966 after studying a group of members of the Unification Church. It's funny because this cult expert actually mentioned the Unification Church too. But anyway, I mean, Jehovah's Witnesses have already predicted it once, so I don't think that...
3 times.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Yeah, 3 times. So I don't know if they'll make that same mistake again in predicting an actual date. But even with the second part about believing that joining the group is the only way to be saved, that's 100% Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, if you don't join Jehovah's Witnesses, you won't be saved.
And even if they don't predict the actual date, they still are saying and teaching that the end is coming. The end is near, and the only way you're going to survive is with us, and everybody else is wrong. So it's a doomsday call, and I would love to see any Jehovah's Witness argue this statement.
And recently, it's funny because they've been, like, the governing body and stuff have been coming out with talks and things about not thinking so much about the end of the world and things like that, and that shouldn't be your only focus anymore. So they probably don't want to be labeled as that anymore.
No, they've been pimping people this whole time, and they don't realize. It's like, imagine somebody being in a relationship and wanting to get married, and the dude is like, oh yeah, we're gonna get married eventually, just stay down. And now they've been dating for 35 years, and it's like, hey, don't really think too much about the marriage and the wedding thing. Just focus on us.
Focus on present.
How stupid do that sound?
Some groups, as they evolve and change, particularly when the founder leader dies, and then the group may disintegrate and vanish, or the group may have a successor, as Russell did. And that group, by the way, the Jehovah's Witnesses were once simply called the Russellites, which tells you quite a bit. So what now they have is...
The Russellites? Wow.
They were called the Russellites. So typically, a group identifies with that leader to the extreme that they might be called by the leader's name.
So I had to go back and kind of set up like a timeline Back in 1879 is whenever Russell began publishing Zion's Watchtower. And back then they were just called Bible students. Or a lot of people knew them as Russellites too, because they were following Russell. And then in 1917 is whenever Rutherford took over, which was like right after Russell died in October of 1916. Literally, the name Jehovah's Witnesses did not come to be until 1931.
I remember when we had the midweek, the Bible study, when we had like the 2 during the week.
Yeah.
And I remember going over some of this information, like some of the history, but of course it was watered down.
Right.
And I'll never forget, my granddad would say people in service would call them Russellites. And he's like, people, we never went by that name. And it's like, they actually did. Because y'all, point blank period, this is a cult started by a man. And it snowballed into what it is today. But you just following this man as a leader. He came up with the rules, he came up with the format. And now it's a $1 billion business.
And what's crazy is whenever we were looking up like different names that Jehovah's Witnesses had, they even put in their Rutherfordites. Like, I never heard that before. You know what I mean? But Google said that some of them were called Rutherfordites too after Rutherford took over.
So, in my opinion, the Jehovah's Witnesses continue to be a destructive authoritarian organization, but I would not call them a destructive cult. I think they've evolved beyond that point. But they still have practices such as their encouragement of their members not to have blood transfusions, which results in deaths every year. And also, they have very extreme beliefs about the world. The reason that they don't salute the flag or pledge allegiance or belong to organizations is because, per their belief system, they believe that there is only one organization established by Jehovah God on earth, and that is Jehovah's Witnesses. And therefore, they cannot have any dual loyalty or allegiance. And this is the reason they're not open to being in a political party, voting, being in the armed services, and in fact, they became conscientious objectors during wartime.
I think definitely when it comes to the definition of like personality cult, since it's not like a single leader, then yeah, he's got it on that. But I think his reasoning after why he doesn't view them as a cult when it comes to like their super strict belief system and, you know, staying apart from like politics and all those things, that kind of highlighted why they are a cult.
Yeah, and I like how he started off with, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because he's not stating this is fact, this is just from his point of view, and we can speak from our point of view from being Jehovah's Witnesses at one point and living through it. Because you can study something all day, but the hands-on is a lot different than just reading about it or hearing about it. But when you actually live it and walk it, you can just relate to it a lot differently.
Yeah, I think so too. And even with the he highlighted the point about Jehovah's Witnesses believing that they're the only group on earth that will be saved and everything, which also highlighted to the like Doomsday cult situation too. Yeah. So yeah, that's just our beliefs on it, you know. It doesn't mean that it has to be 100% true. But this guy does have a lot of accolades, and he's worked closely with Jehovah's Witnesses in different court cases and things. And we'll even highlight one of the ones that he was bringing out, because it's just crazy. So many people know of Jehovah's Witnesses, and if you're close to like somebody who's going through a lot, then you really see, you know, like firsthand what they're kind of going through.
What happens is, let's say there's a couple and they're both witnesses, but one leaves, divorce, and then custody battle over the minor children. And it can get very intense where the children really get caught in this war or struggle because the witnesses feel that, you know, they can't celebrate birthdays, they can't celebrate Christmas, they don't acknowledge holidays. Only the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society and Jehovah's Witnesses is what they celebrate or adhere to or whatever. So the end result is that the child is in the middle and the parents are fighting, and the witness parent wants to raise the child as a witness, And frequently what happens is they will, if they have custody, turn that child against the non-witness parent.
This is happening to my editor right now. Right, he has a son, and you're describing this perfectly. It's almost like there's a textbook out there or something on how to do it. They've lied to the kid. They've turned him completely against him. His family has disowned him. It's really sad to see it happen.
Well, I've testified in these custody cases, and in most of the cases that I've testified in, of course, I am working for the parent who is not a witness. One case, for example, that I worked on, the father had become a witness, even though he wasn't one when he married his wife and they had their children, and it became a source of friction. And the end result was that the wife divorced him, and I testified about how the witnesses and their beliefs would impact the children and how it would affect them. For example, they couldn't be a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout. They couldn't be in Little League. They couldn't celebrate holidays. They couldn't go to a Christmas party, and so on. So the mother ended up with primary custody, and the father had visitation. And his visitation was prescribed in the sense that he could not take the children and indoctrinate them in the witnesses, and he could not go with them, for example, door to door, as witnesses do, handing out tracts and trying to recruit people.
That part where it was talking about the dad that was a Jehovah's Witness and the son wasn't allowed to go in field service. I'm like, good.
He literally said that during the video, like,
good. Yeah, they doing you a favor.
Yeah.
The mom, she got some sense in that parenting right there. Mm-hmm. But it just shows how divided this religion is with kids. Yeah. And it's like a tug of war. And the sad part is each person feels absolutely right. Yeah. Even though only one of them is right, the one that's not a Jehovah's Witness. But they feel all the way entitled. And I remember thinking of it from a witness standpoint of, this is the correct way to live, and you just don't understand it. Yeah. And my child needs to do this because their life depends on how many people they save and how many hours they knock on doors, and they can't go to this event for school or ABC because they have to be at this meeting or they have to be at field service. We got a convention. They got to be there. Yeah. They can't celebrate this birthday. And it just divides families up.
It does. And that's what he gets into talking about, is that, like, if this kid is allowed to go there, then he's going to be indoctrinated, which is exactly what happens. And it splits the family apart so badly because the kid is confused, because now they feel like even the guy's editor, he said, was going through the same kind of situation to where they were lying to the kid and they literally will make the child like go against the unbelieving parent, because whenever you're at these meetings, they have talks about unbelieving parents and say if it's the dad who's unbelieving, then they are a child or a parent, a fatherless child. Yes. Yeah. But he goes on to talk about that kind of thing and highlights how it can be so damaging for the child. And he even you guys can go watch the whole video, but he even talks later on about like the blood transfusion situation and how, like, okay, if you are a grown adult and you decide that, you don't want to have a blood transfusion due to your religious beliefs, it is what it is. You're able to make that decision for yourself, but to try to put that on your child who has a right to live, like, no, that's not right, because the child has a right to live and they have a right to a life-sustaining procedure. That's
true. I look at religion in general. You shouldn't be taught religion until you're 18. Yeah. Or you should be able to pick a religion once you're grown, because you're not given a fair chance. Whatever you teach if you teach a child to steal from the moment they're a baby all the way until growing up, they will feel that it's justified to steal. Yeah. Because my parents taught me this. You feel like your parents know best. Yeah. My excuse for being a Jehovah's Witness was, if it was something wrong, my grandparents would know it. So I just never did the research, because my grandparents were the wisest people I knew. Yeah. And that's whatever you are raised and talk is what you're gonna roll with.
Yeah.
And you're not given a fair chance to make your own decision on if this is what you want to do or not.
Yeah, and that's the truth. And the truth is too that just because you don't hold a religion does not mean that you can't instill good morals and values into your child.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's something that we get a lot of pushback about, is like, even when I'm at work, I don't know why, but it's like the Christians will sniff me out and immediately they want to strike up a conversation.
They do that to anybody.
Oh my gosh.
They
like,
annoy people.
They're like, oh, are you saved? Are you a child of God? Like, it's like that kind of thing. And to me, I respect everybody's beliefs, you know what I mean? But like, it is so inappropriate to like ask me that, you know, and then what do you want me to say? Like, I'm going to tell you how I feel, you know what I mean?
And the thing
we don't
is,
have to talk about it too
you
much.
have to respect people's boundaries.
Yeah.
That's more important than beliefs, because all right, I can have my beliefs, but if I respect your boundaries, I don't need to tell you my beliefs.
Yes, that's
because
the
now
truth.
I'm crossing the line.
Right. And really, like, we all have God within us. So you don't have to sit there and push your religious beliefs on another person. And I think just like with the point that you brought up about kids shouldn't have to pick a religion until they're 18 and can think for themselves. I also believe that. Like, what I would love to do whenever we have kids is to be able to teach them about all kinds of different religions. You know what I mean? Like, I want them to be well versed, well traveled, and to have the capability of doing research on their own, whatever that research may lead them to.
Yeah, because we have our own ways, but every person is their own individual, got their own journey.
Yes.
And of course, we can instill, and this is what I don't like about the confusion between religion and morals. Morals are in you. It's in your essence. For example, if you see somebody on the side of the road homeless, especially like a person with kids, it's not like you had to read a book to be like, man, I feel bad for that person.
Yeah.
A book didn't have to teach you. It was just naturally in you.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to have a religion to be a good person. The religion thing is just to tell you or sell you a dream to where you have to roll with this.
Yeah.
And if you don't roll with this, there's going to be consequences.
Right.
And anything good that's happening for you, you can only get it through the middleman, through this religion. But without it, you can't be anything good.
Yeah, and we are all shaped by different things that happen to us and different things that we have experienced in our lives. Because even with the point that you brought up about seeing like somebody on the side of the road, there's people, with kids, there's people who wouldn't even bat an eye, but a lot of times it has to do with the experience that they've had. Maybe they grew up in a high homeless population, so they've seen them, go out there, like the parent go out there and do drugs, and so now the thought is they're just going to use that money for drugs. You know what I mean? Like, so everybody is shaped by their own experiences and what goes on in their lives.
I'm glad you said that. You just made me think of this point. There's a person that has money and they have a congregation full of people that bring them their money and they don't have no sympathy. And this is the person to read the Bible and teach the Bible. So that just proves that just because you have religion doesn't mean you're going to have good morals.
Yeah.
You can have religion and not have morals, and you can not have religion at all and be a person full of morals. Like, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, some of the best people that I have met, in my opinion, are people who don't identify with a single religion, because their mind is so open that they're able to just accept everybody and see where they're at in their journey and not say that you're farther along or more far behind. It just is. Is. You are on your journey and on your right path, and I just love people like that, because you can feel their essence. Like, they make people feel included, and it doesn't matter if they're Buddhists or Christians or believe in Mother Mary. Like, it doesn't matter. They have this ability to just bring everybody together,
because we are not divided by religion.
No,
we on the outside looking in and be like, we all can have an exchange of information.
Yes.
And nobody is better than the next person, and nobody is going to hell for not rolling with this.
Yeah.
We all just existing.
Yeah.
Just let us know what y'all thought about this, and do y'all feel like it's a cult? What do you think cults are? Is he on to something? Do you have a different opinion?
Yeah, let us know what you think, guys.
Yep, drop that in the comments. Hit us on our Instagram at Awaken Truths IG. We got our TikTok also. That's at Awaken Truths LLC.
And we have our healing journals. We have our regular version as well as the Pimo version. So go ahead and check that out in the link. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will catch y'all next time.
Peace.